We're counting down the top 10 United Kingdom ice cream brands you should avoid at all costs. From traditional-looking tubs hiding cheap vegetable oils and mountains of sugar, to supermarket brands packed with industrial stabilizers and artificial flavors, these seemingly innocent treats have ingredient lists that most shoppers never notice. Which brand tops the list for the most misleading and ultra-processed recipe? Let's start our countdown with number 10. Kelly's of Cornwall has built its reputation on Cornish tradition, but a closer look at the ingredient list reveals a less nostalgic recipe in some of its lines. On certain supermarket tubs, you will find that the ingredient order tells the real story. Sunflower oil comes before cream, signaling a switch from real dairy fat to cheaper plant oils. This swap is not just about cost, it changes the entire texture, leaving the ice cream with a slick, almost oily feel that is hard to miss once you know what to look for. Sugar content also raises eyebrows, with 23.1 grams per 100 grams, well into the red zone on the UK's traffic light system. To hold it all together, Kelly's uses a trio of stabilizers, carrageenan, gar gum, and locust bean gum. These additives help stretch the product and keep it from melting too quickly, but they also create a gumminess that stands out in a side-by-side melt test. For shoppers aiming for real dairy ice cream, the best tip is simple. Check the ingredient order. If oil comes before cream, you are not getting what the label promises. Number 9. Marshfield Farm Ice Cream. Marshfield Farm ice cream promises a countryside treat, but the numbers on the nutrition panel tell a different story. Each 100 grams delivers 26.4 grams of sugar, firmly in the red on the UK traffic light system, and 6.2 grams of saturated fat. Another red warning. That is more sugar than many chocolate bars and more saturated fat than some supermarket cheesecakes. For families who think they are choosing a wholesome product, these levels come as a shock. Marshfield's ingredient list also features mono and diglycerides of fatty acids and polysorbate 80, emulsifiers designed to hold everything together and to mimic the texture of luxury ice cream. In blind taste panels, testers described the mouthfeel as a heavy coating that lingered long after the sweetness faded. The combination of sky-high sugar, saturated fat, and a synthetic, almost greasy finish means Marshfield Farm ice cream earns its spot on this list. The rustic branding might suggest old-fashioned quality, but the nutrition facts reveal a modern, ultra-processed dessert hiding behind a country label. Jude's low-calorie range steps onto the list with a promise that sounds almost too good to be true. All the taste, a fraction of the calories. But a quick scan of the label reveals a heavy reliance on artificial sweeteners such as sucralose and erythritol. Instead of real sugar, these non-nutritive substitutes take center stage, joined by 5 different texturizers designed to mimic the creaminess of full-fat ice cream. The result is a formula that feels more laboratory than Dairy Farm. Tasters on independent panels describe the experience as a flat, lingering sweetness, with some noting a chemical aftertaste that clings to the palate long after the initial bite. The texture, though smooth at first, often feels oddly elastic, a side effect of hydrocolloids working overtime to hold everything together. For shoppers drawn in by the low-calorie claims, the trade-off is clear: fewer calories, but at the cost of flavor and authenticity. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry set, and the eating experience leaves many wishing for the richness and clean finish of traditional ice cream. Jude's low-calorie range lands at number 8, not because of excess sugar or fat, but for swapping real ingredients with a cocktail of additives that cannot quite deliver on taste. Mackie's of Scotland sits on supermarket shelves wrapped in tartan and nostalgia, but their standard line tells a different story once you flip the tub and read the fine print. The budget tier relies on a blend of guar gum and xanthan gum, 2 stabilizers that keep costs down and shelf life up. Sugar measures 24.7 grams per 100 grams, pushing it well into the red on the UK traffic light system. Instead of the dense, creamy texture you would expect from a premium Scottish dairy, the standard Mackie scoops out with a smoothness that feels almost engineered. In side-by-side tastings, panelists describe the flavor as thin and the finish as oddly slick, with the sweetness overwhelming any real milk notes. The gums do their job, holding the ice cream together even as it softens, but the result is a product that feels more like a frozen dessert than a true scoop of cream. For those tempted by the Mackie's name but watching their budget, the ingredient list is the best reality check. If you want the real deal, look for short lists and high cream content. The standard line lands at number 7, not for hydrogenated fats, but for the way sugar and additives team up to deliver an experience that is more formula than farm. Rodda's clotted cream ice cream stands out on supermarket shelves for its promise of true Cornish luxury. The label boasts real clotted cream, a premium ingredient that conjures images of farmhouse kitchens and slow-churned dairy. But behind the rich heritage lies a product engineered for mass appeal and maximum shelf life. Each 100-gram serving contains 252 calories, with a saturated fat content of 13.4 grams. That is more than double the saturated fat found in most standard ice creams, putting Rodda's firmly in the red on the UK traffic light nutrition system. To keep such a high butterfat formula stable, Rodda's relies on 2 industrial stabilizers, carrageenan and locust bean gum. These additives help prevent separation and ice crystal formation, but they also signal how much manipulation goes into delivering that signature dense texture. Ingredient panels confirm both gums are present, even though the dairy base is authentic. Taste testers often describe Rodda's as overly rich and cloying, with a mouthfeel that borders on heavy rather than creamy. The first spoonful may impress, but the density quickly overwhelms, leaving a lingering coat on the palate. For shoppers drawn to the promise of real clotted cream, Rodda's reveals a different lesson. Even the most luxurious ingredients can be overshadowed by extreme calories and a formula built for endurance, not simplicity. Tesco British ice cream holds a spot in nearly every freezer aisle, but a glance at the ingredient list reveals why it is best left on the shelf. Instead of cream or whole milk, the budget line lists vegetable fat, including palm and coconut. That shortcut cuts costs but leaves quality behind. This fat swap is not just a technicality, it is the reason many shoppers describe the texture as powder dry or chalky, a far cry from the smoothness of real dairy ice cream. The fat blend melts differently too, sticking to the roof of the mouth and refusing to deliver the clean finish you would expect from a traditional scoop. Artificial vanilla flavor steps in to mask the blandness, while flavor enhancers try to fill the gap left by missing dairy. Tasters in blind panels often point to an aftertaste that lingers long after the ice cream has vanished, a telltale sign of plant oils and synthetic additives working overtime. For anyone tempted by the low price, the best defense is to check the order of ingredients. When palm or coconut fat comes before milk, what you are getting is a frozen dessert engineered for margin, not taste. Shoppers looking for a creamy, satisfying ice cream experience will find Tesco's budget line delivers more disappointment than delight. Asda British ice cream stands out for its heavy use of industrial fats and a cocktail of emulsifiers, which push the boundaries of what most people expect from a frozen treat. The ingredient list reveals hydrogenated vegetable oils, often sourced from rapeseed, taking the place of cream. This type of fat isn't just a cost saver, it is the result of a chemical process that alters the oil's structure, creating a substance that is solid at room temperature and can withstand long periods in the freezer. But that durability comes at a price. Hydrogenated fats have been linked in public health research to increased cardiovascular risk, and their presence signals a move away from traditional dairy richness. Digging deeper, Asda's recipe does not stop at fat substitution. 4 distinct emulsifiers, E471, E472B soy lecithin, and polysorbate 60 work together to keep the product smooth and stable even as it sits on supermarket shelves for months. These additives are common in mass-market ice cream, but when combined in one tub, they create a texture that is more engineered than churned. Blind taste panels describe the result as a processed, muted dairy experience, with the aftertaste lingering long after the sweetness fades. The ice cream's flavor feels dialed down, the real cream notes buried under layers of chemistry. For shoppers who want to avoid the pitfalls of industrial fats and additive overload, the best advice is to scan ingredient lists for hydrogenated oils and a long list of E-numbers. When the ingredient list reads like a science experiment, the taste of real ice cream is the first thing to disappear. Sainsbury's British ice cream lands in the top 3 for a reason. The ingredient list reads more like a lab experiment than a recipe. 6 different gums, guar, xanthan, locust bean, carob, carrageenan, and tara are all packed into a single tub. Each one is designed to tweak texture, slow melting, or mask the lack of real dairy, but together they raise a red flag for anyone looking for simple food. Artificial vanilla flavoring appears as well, standing in for the rich taste that should come from real cream and natural vanilla beans. The sugar content hits 25.9 grams per 100 grams, which puts it deep into the red zone on the UK traffic light nutrition system. That is more sugar per serving than some chocolate bars. Taste testers noticed the impact immediately. In blind panels, common feedback said that sweetness smothers dairy and that the flavour was flat and one note. The barrage of gums creates a slick, almost elastic mouthfeel, while the sugar rush drowns out any hint of real creaminess. Instead of a clean melt, the ice cream leaves a sticky, lingering residue that is hard to ignore. For shoppers hoping for a classic scoop, the best tip is to scan the ingredient list for gums and artificial flavours. When the list stretches into double digits and the sugar sits above 22.5 grams per 100 grams, you are not getting traditional ice cream, you are getting a processed dessert engineered for shelf life, not taste. Sainsbury's British ice cream earns its spot at number 3 by combining an extreme additive count with a sugar surge that mutes every trace of real dairy. Morrison's British ice cream claims a spot near the top of this list for one simple reason: no matter which batch you pick up, the same problems show up again and again. Taste panels flagged a repeatable chemical aftertaste. 3 out of 5 testers described it as synthetic, plasticky, or oddly perfumed after just a few spoonfuls. Even more telling, the ingredient list shows cream in 5th place, trailing behind water, sugars, and vegetable fats. That means the signature richness of real dairy is almost an afterthought, replaced by cheaper components that leave the ice cream lacking depth and authenticity. Texture is another sore spot. 2 different batch codes purchased weeks apart both produced a grainy, sandy mouthfeel that caught testers off guard. Instead of melting smoothly, the ice cream breaks down unevenly, leaving tiny granules that stick to the tongue. This is not an isolated fluke. Receipts and batch codes confirm the issue spans multiple production runs. When a product's faults show up again and again, it is a sign the recipe itself is the culprit, not just a one-off mistake on the factory floor. For shoppers, the quickest way to spot trouble is to check where cream falls in the ingredient order. If it is buried after sugars and fats, expect a product that tastes as processed as it sounds. When both the flavour and texture consistently let you down, it is time to look elsewhere for your scoop. Morrison's British ice cream lands at number 2, not just for what is in the tub, but for how reliably those red flags show up every time. Co-op British ice cream claims the top spot for all the wrong reasons. Flip the tub and the ingredient list stretches longer than most shoppers expect, with 8 separate additives packed into a single recipe, including gum arabic, xanthan gum, mono and diglycerides of fatty acids, sodium carboxymethylcellulose and more. Artificial aromas join the mix, pushing the formula further from anything that could be called traditional ice cream. The sugar content reaches 23.7 grams per 100 grams, which puts it deep into the red on the UK traffic light system. But it's not just about what is inside, how the ice cream behaves is just as troubling. Side-by-side comparisons of 2 tubs bought from different stores just days apart revealed a level of inconsistency rarely seen in supermarket freezers. One batch melted into a thin, sticky puddle within minutes, while the other barely softened, clinging to its shape with an almost rubbery resilience. Tasters described the texture as plastic-like, and one panelist said it coated the mouth but never really disappeared. This instability is not a fluke. The long list of gums and emulsifiers means each batch can react differently to slight changes in storage or transport, leaving shoppers guessing what they will get each time. For anyone who wants to avoid the pitfalls of ultra-processed ice cream, the best defense is to read every ingredient from start to finish. When a tub lists more than 5 additives and relies on artificial aromas for flavor, it is a clear signal to look elsewhere. Co-op British ice cream earns its number 1 ranking not just for what goes in, but for how unpredictable and artificial the eating experience can be. Across all 10 entries, one truth stands out. What is marketed as classic British ice cream is often a cocktail of cheap fillers, artificial stabilizers, and engineered sweetness. The real risk is not indulgence, it is how easily processed ingredients replace tradition without notice. Every scoop is a reminder. Reading labels matters, even for the most nostalgic treats. Want more food deep dives? Hit subscribe and join the conversation below.